So I thought we'd talk about a walkthrough of my DIY everyday carry backpack that I built for myself, and sort of its evolution and what I wanted and what I needed and why I bothered to build it. So first, like a couple quick things. We got in terms of like design criteria for this thing, there were two sort of basic inspirations. I still like. Wow, that is a toasted Sharpie. Here, we'll upgrade. That's a teeny bit better. So design criteria. There were two bags that I really liked. One was the GoRuck backpack, the GR1, and now I guess like some of the smaller, like the rucking bags and the radio bags and whatever. But anyway, that whole series, at the time it was the GR1, was a really interesting backpack. I liked the design aesthetic of it. I liked the I liked the way it had been built. I liked the construction, the quality, and all of that stuff. I had some problems with it. More in a moment there. And then the second one was an Australian company that, as far as I'm aware, doesn't actually exist anymore, but they made what looked like a lighter weight, slightly smaller GoRuck sort of bag, but it had very much the same aesthetic to it. But by the time I was maybe ready to pull the trigger, I couldn't get one of those because they weren't making them anymore, and they were in Australia anyway, and it had been a serious pain to get one. And the GoRuck bags, as much as I liked them, I had issues twofold with them, two main issues. One was the price, and it's not that I don't think that they're worth the price. I want to be like really clear. I think they are totally worth the money if you're going to use them the way they're intended to be used. And I'm not dragging my bag through mud, and I'm not doing rucking with it, and I'm absolutely not some like operator in the field, right? Like, I'm a guy commuting who wanted a nice backpack that wouldn't annoy him. And so the price was bothersome to me on that front. Not that I don't think it's worth it, but just not that I can stomach paying that necessarily. And then the second problem I had, and this sort of goes along with what I just said there, is because I am not dragging the bag through the mud and huge amounts of weight in it, and through the sea and sand and behind cars and like whatever else. The construction of it was actually overkill for me. It is built with 1000 denier Cordura. Lots of people use that, and that's fine, but I'm not going to be beating on this thing. It's a commuting bag. So I wanted to save as much weight as I could in the construction of the bag. It's no good for me to have a bag that starts off weighing 10 pounds if all I'm going to do is carry 10 pounds worth of junk on a daily basis. That means I'm got 20 pounds on my back when really all I intend to carry is 10. Anyway, in terms of basic criteria for this thing, I am relatively tall. I'm 6'1", and I'm not super broad-shouldered. And so I needed a bag that was rectangular and less square. So I needed some length to the thing, otherwise it would look kind of funny on my back. I wanted a bit of Velcro. GoRuck does like a single patch in the middle, but I wanted a bit more. Some people do like entire panels, but I find that to be like very attractive to like lint and just junk getting stuck in it. So I wanted a strip of Velcro, so I could put patches on, or identifiers, or labels, or like whatever, just for utility purpose. I also wanted several strips but not a lot of molly webbing at the bottom of the PALS strips down here. And the spec on that says that it should be that these should be 1-inch wide webbing, and that they should be bar tacked. Well, it's interesting. A lot of people just forward backstitch those. I opt to bar tack them because I find it more secure myself. It's more time consuming, but whatever. And they should be bar tacked. 1-inch webbing with a 1-inch space as well. And then the bar tacking, this gap here, that should be 1.5 inches between that stitching. That's like the actual published standard on that. So if you ever want to see, this is very popular on bags now. You're seeing this on like a lot of stuff. If you want to know whether they followed spec or not, it's 1-inch webbing, 1-inch gap, 1.5-inch spacing on the stitching. That's the way it's supposed to be. So I wanted that. I also know that corners, right, because they jut out, are much more prone to abrasion and getting beat on. So I wanted, where possible, to sort of be able to round the corners of this thing a little bit more, so less of a hard rectangle and more of like some radiuses on there. I also knew that I wanted it to be a clamshell. So from the side here, I knew that I was going to have a bottom panel, that I was going to have a zipper that was continuous all the way around. So side, top, other side, so the entire bag could open all the way up. I knew that in terms of internal storage, this is the internal back panel now, that I was going to want a sleeve here, and that sleeve was going to need to be sized for either a laptop or a bladder. So if I was going to hike with the thing, I wanted to be able to chuck a nominal 3-liter bladder through there to carry water. That's on the panel that is against your back. On the flip side, right, so we'll do that here because this thing sort of opens that way. I wanted, this is the top, I wanted a pair of pockets, right, to be able to put stuff, and then up here I wanted sort of an organizer panel. I carry field note notebooks or their equivalent, which are standard sized, and then I carry a number of pens and pencils with me on a daily basis. And I wanted right up here, so when I unzip the top of the bag and reach in, I wanted access to a pocket here that had a notebook too, really. I usually try to carry my current and my previous, and then whatever pens and pencils I wanted in here. And that's all I wanted on the inside. I knew the back panel was going to need to be padded. I knew the bottom down here, I wanted padded, some protection for a laptop. I do haul a computer back and forth regularly. I wanted, and this is sort of where it gets weird, for the straps here, I wanted as lightweight as humanly possible. So I did side anchor here for these, and then the straps sort of connect, yeah? But these straps, and you'll see in a moment, I went with no padding. I went with 1.5-inch wide webbing on those because it's a lot less bulky, it's a lot less weight, it's a lot less complexity, and it would encourage me to keep the weight of this thing down. Remember, this is not a rucking bag. I'm not throwing a 40-pound chunk of steel into the back of it and then going for 20-mile hike runs, right? Like, this is carrying these things, laptops and notebooks and pens and lunch and done. So that was sort of my basic design brief here. It ended up working out. I can give you dimensions later, but it ended up working. This entire thing, volume-wise, ended up working out to somewhere in the vicinity of about 14 liters. I have a number of backpacks that I could show you, but that are a bit bigger than that, and that they have a tendency to get full. Like, you have a tendency to keep putting things in. You're like, oh, I could bring this just in case, and I could bring this just in case. And the reality is, hardly ever was I using that stuff. So anyway, that was sort of like my basic design brief of the thing. And from there, it was time to start building, better sketches. From there, it was time to build a prototype, because anything worth doing is worth doing twice. So I built this. This is the shell of the prototype. It's been, a lot of it has actually been taken apart because I learned some stuff here. Obviously, it's the nature of prototypes. So this bag I built out of 12-ounce duck canvas cotton. Knowing full well that was not an optimal material for this, but wanting to be able to test out construction methods and just sort of what I could handle, what my machine could handle, what problems I was going to have, just sort of like to suss. It's a prototype, right? To build the thing out. And I figured I would build it, I would use it for a while, and we'd sort of see from there. So as you can see on the front panel here, we have a 2-inch strip of the loop portion of Velcro. Down here you have 3 strips of PALs or Molly, again stitched on spec. These are bar tacked every 1.5 inches down here. They are 1 inch wide with 1 inch spacing in between. The bottom panel of this bag is 2 layers of duck canvas, and then sandwiched in between is a 2mm layer of EVA craft foam, which is then quilted into place with this lovely diamond pattern. I liked that. It's not very thick, but it actually feels very substantial, and it was even for just cotton, it was fairly wear resistant. I mean, it's got some shine to it, but not bad. You can see, interestingly, the fading on the top from all the exposure up here. Parts of this bag are missing because I scavenged them or looted them in the process of making the actual bag, so bear with me. You'll notice there's no zipper here. More on that in a second. But the whole bag does clamshell open. This is the outward-facing panel inner. So you can see on this particular bag, I did 2 pockets here. This is totally shabby. 2 pockets here of for notebooks, and then 2 pen pockets in the middle with some narrower ones on the sides. It is not the best stitching in the entire world. And then on this panel here, this is against your back, there's just a big panel here. There's some relatively low density foam stitched into the back against your back, and then there's more low density foam here in the front. So this is like a fully double padded laptop. It's very cushy for a laptop. It's fine. It would be, I found it to be kind of overkill. These straps here are 2 inches wide, and then they're connected to 1 inch wide here. The buckles have been removed, as you can see, because I needed them for something else. And what I learned with this, I used this bag for like a year, I think, which is nuts for like just a canvas backpack. And I learned a lot. One of the things I learned was that the canvas, as you might expect, it's not water resistant at all. It soaks up sweat like crazy in the summer. And it doesn't slide very nicely against the stuff that you're wearing. That slipperiness of nylon lets a backpack sort of float against your back nicely and always sort of self-adjust, whereas this stuff doesn't. It sort of binds up, and you find yourself tugging and pulling on shirts and jackets and whatever, trying to get them sorted. But the overall design of it, actually, like, it worked really, really well. It was comfortable. It lasted. The stitching didn't fall apart, which is a miracle given what a hack at sewing I am. It wasn't pretty in some ways, but it totally did the job. And it gave me a lot of confidence, actually. So from there, it was time to actually build the real thing. So I ordered up some fabric, made some changes to my plans, and built this. Now, obviously, I didn't build that. That is from Lugs Not Drugs. It's a lovely bike patch. I didn't choose the lug life. The lug life chose me. Boy, ain't that the truth. So you can see, first and foremost, I went to a 4-inch strip instead of a 2-inch strip. I have a bunch of patches that are sort of this size. That's sort of like a 3-inch round, and they sort of floated awkwardly on the two. And anyway, so swap to that. I went to a much thinner thickness of webbing here. This is actually not nylon, I think. I think it's polypropylene, but I could be wrong. But it's thinner, which is nice. It's still stitched on spec, so 1.5 by inch spacing on inch. It's totally lovely. The zipper on this bag is actually the zipper from the prototype. It's a number 8 waterproof, like Aqua Guard KKK zipper, which is a lovely, lovely, lovely thing. The back panel on this, I made some changes to. Instead of just a sheet of foam inside, it's actually 2 strips of 5mm EVA craft foam that are laminated to a sheet of 2mm craft foam with a channel in the middle. And that allows for a couple things. One, it allows for better articulation around your spine and your back this way. It also allows a channel in here for your spine for more comfort and a little bit more airflow. Also, and you can barely see it here, there's actually stitching right here. So that stitching is for this back sheet of fabric is stitched through that center thin section of foam, which means that the foam is no longer floating. The side pieces float, like this stuff is all not connected here, but this center section keeps it from shifting and moving on you, which is kind of nice. The bottom of the bag is still 2 layers with foam in the middle, and it's still quilted because I totally loved that look and that function. The difference here is the fabric of this bag is 500 denier coated Kadura. So it's much lighter weight than most backpacks of this sort that you're going to find. And that really shows in the weight of this bag. Again, these are down to 1.5 inch wide, thin gauge webbing, same sort as this. For backpacks, for shoulder straps, the adjusters to 1 inch webbing of that same sort saves a ton of weight there as well. Internally, we made some changes as well. Here, we'll get this. It's, again, full clamshell. Gotta run decent zipper pulls for two reasons. One, they're an easy way to add some color and some interest to the bag, and two, they damp a lot of the rattle of the zippers, so they make the bag a lot quieter. This is a full loadout in here, so you can see inside this top section of the panel. Flip that. We've got a single pocket in the middle that's capable of holding 2 of these notebooks, which is nice. Pen selection or pencils or whatever, writing implements here, and then larger space over here for fat stuff. So if you've got markers or Copics or whatever that you need to carry with you, you've got a space for those. And then down below that, there are 2 larger sort of like bin storages. Those will fit a paperback book. They fit pen cases and organizers and med kits and all the rest. And then the backpack itself, I like that quilting so much that I actually quilted the back pocket of this as well. So this is this lining material is 420 denier uncoated nylon, so it's beefier than the stuff in the previous bag. Gives it a little bit more structure. I didn't pad this portion of it. I padded the back, but not this. I got rid of that extra bulk. And then internally here, this is just like a loadout. So we've got a 16-ounce Nalgene bottle because I don't need to carry a day's worth of water. I can refill. It's not a big deal. I've got a pen organizer, a notebook organizer that handles all the sort of like more esoteric writing implements that I might need. Always with the always with the bandanas, day notebooks for all the heavier stuff, umbrellas because I'm a commuter and I got to walk from the train station, glasses case because reasons, and that's the whole thing. Again, volume on this works out to about 14 liters or so. It's a lovely bag. This one has been in heavy use now for the better part of a year, and I haven't had any failures or any sort of touch-ups that have needed to be done. And it's worked out really well. This was stitched. I should note, in case you're thinking about a project like this, but you're wary because you only have like a regular home sewing machine or whatever. This was stitched entirely with a relatively low-end consumer-grade Singer sewing machine. It has handled these layers of Kadura reasonably well. It's got a heavy-duty needle in it. I use heavy-duty thread. Obviously, I take my time. I go slow, but it handles all of this. If you're wondering how do I manage to do bar tacks with such a lower-end machine, I would point out that a bar tack is really just a zigzag stitch with a very short stitch length. Not that hard to do. Otherwise, yeah, it's a delightful bag. And this is, in fact, my everyday carry bag. Every day when I go off to work or I'm stomping around, if I need to carry anything of consequence with me, this is the bag that goes. And it has done a delightful job. Anyway, thanks for watching.